Did you know that Matthew was an evangelist of saints? That was one of the key insights of the most popular commentary on the first gospel from the Middle Ages, a commentary known today only as the Anonymous Commentary on Matthew. The author recognized something that more recent studies of the Gospels have come to realize as well, and that is that Matthew was not written primarily to evangelize non-Christians, but to teach and instruct Christians in how to live more faithfully as disciples of Jesus. That is, as Matthew sat down and recorded his stories and teachings about Jesus, his aim was not simply to teach facts about Jesus, but to challenge the way believers were living, and to call them to a different way of living in the ancient Mediterranean world. One of the ways we see this priority for Matthew is in his emphasis on righteousness. More than any other evangelist, Matthew is concerned to emphasize the importance of growing in righteousness as disciples of Jesus. Chapter 5, verses 14 to 20 is a keynote in this regard for the rest of the Gospel, and Jesus returns to this matter again and again throughout Matthew's Gospel. And yet Matthew does not intend this teaching for non-believers to teach them how to be saved. Jesus' instruction in these passages is directed to those who've already embraced him in faith and who wish to follow him as his disciples. In a similar way, Matthew records Jesus' teaching about righteousness and the Christian life for those small fledgling communities in the cities of the Mediterranean world who gather regularly for worship and to receive instruction for right living as God's people. Matthew, then, was an evangelist of saints. Did you know that the opening chapters of Matthew's Gospel paint an elaborate picture of who Jesus is? It's true. This was a major aim of the first 4 chapters of Matthew. One of my favorite commentators on Matthew elaborates on this observation in relation to the Sermon on the Mount. The authors write, "Before Jesus speaks a word, before he utters his commands, the reader has been informed by Old Testament prophecy, by John the Baptist, by God and by the devil, who Jesus is, the Messiah, the Son of David, and the Son of God. He is the fulfiller of prophecies, the bearer of the Spirit, and the healer par excellence." So the obligation to obey the commands of Matthew 5 to 7 is grounded in Christology, in the person of Jesus. Isn't that remarkable? Matthew takes pains to fill out a picture of who Jesus is in order to impress upon us the weight of Jesus' authority when he opens his mouth to command us how to live. And it's not just for the Sermon on the Mount. These first 4 chapters set up the 5 great discourses that structure the whole Gospel. The Sermon on the Mount in chapters 5 to 7, the missionary discourse in chapter 10, the parables of the kingdom in chapter 13, Jesus teaching about discipleship and forgiveness in chapter 18, and on persecution and judgment in 23 to 25. Who Jesus is forms the authority by which he commands us and gives us instructions in how he would have us to live as his disciples. We see this dynamic throughout the Gospel of Matthew, right up to the final paragraph of the whole work, the Great Commission. Remember what he says to his disciples? "All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Go, therefore, and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, teaching them to obey all that I have commanded you." See that? All authority has been given to Jesus, therefore we must obey him. As you read Matthew, keep your eyes open to the subtle ways in which the author fills out his picture of who Jesus is, and ponder what this means for the way we hear his teaching.